You're listening to the Waking the Wild show, a podcast dedicated to the ones who see and feel things differently, the ones who say hell no to the status quo, the ones who deeply long to fully claim their one wild and precious life. You are the souls the world's been waiting for. You came here for a mythical life, to be the sovereign leaders, the world changers, the magical ones. You came here to liberate your wild self from cultural taming, discover your kin, and fulfill your soul path. And we are here to guide you on your journey of reclaiming your wildness and actualizing your deepest gifts, so that you can live fully and die complete. And now, your host, Leanne Brooke Tyler.
Hello, my beautiful people. A huge warm welcome back to the show. If you're new here or ready to go deeper on your soul path, we have a gift for you. A powerful wild wander guide to uncovering your heart's deepest longings. This is a unique Waking the Wild invitation that until now we've only given to students in the deepest Waking the Wild crucibles such as Sovereign and Medicine. And now we're making it available to our wider community too, as we want you to benefit from its truly life-changing power. And every Wild Wednesday, you can now join us for guidance, support and kinship to create a regular practice of rewilding your soul. Both the Wild Wander Guide and Wild Wednesday are based on ancient ways alchemized for modern days, helping you to thrive in this crazy modern world without having to move to a planet that's not so crazy as ours. To take this step on your soul path, get the guide and join us for Wild Wednesday, hop on over to wakingthewild.com/wolfpack now, and you'll get your mitts on all of that goodness right away. And now on to this week's show with Anthar Kharana Navarro. A native in the north of Colombia, he is a music composer, sound healer, and ceremonial leader of the Eagle and Condor Nations. Anthar is also a Sundancer and a member of the Native American Church. He started at a young age, guided by wise elders from his land, and during the last 20 years of travel, Anthar has visited 16 countries, particularly active in the UK, leading retreats, workshops, conferences, ceremonies, and concerts. He is the director and founder of the Ancestral School in Colombia and both the Tribal Sound Healing and the Tambora Foundation in the UK and Colombia. He's also co-director of the First School of Sound Healing in Scotland and the Ancestral Pathways School in England. In this show, we explored how outside change begins with what's inside. We explored practices and ways of being that connect us with the old ways, how some people are here to be bridges to the new, and the importance of connecting with our land and ancestors. This episode was truly profound. It was one of my favourite in the whole 9 years I've hosted this show, which should tell you how special it is. I was moved to tears and was speechless several times because of the depth of wisdom and truth Anthar brought. I hope you get as much from this show as I did. Let's dive in. Hello, Anthar. A huge welcome to the show.
Hello, Liam. How are you? I'm really happy to be here and looking forward to this conversation with you.
I am delighted that you're here. Really am. Thank you so much. Really am happy. Thank you. We were initially chatting about the topic that we intended to talk about today, which we will get to. But as I said, I'm just really curious about you and your life and how you came to do what you're doing. So before we get to even talk about the topic, I would just love to know just a bit about you and how you've ended up doing the really, really gorgeous, deep, much needed work that you're doing in the world.
Thank you. I suppose to make the story short, I started from quite early age. I'm from the north of Colombia. And when we moved to a different area with my family, I had the privilege to get to know some elders from different traditions here in Colombia. And I started from around when I was around 14 years old, and always was very interested into any sort of spirituality in general. But when I got into understanding the ancient ways of our land here, I realized that I didn't really need anything external anymore at that time, because I was feeling so complete by understanding how my roots were pretty grounded in a strong soil that was our tradition. So I suppose I cultivated there, and I had been cultivating for a very long time. That's already been maybe, well, I'm 45 now, so that's already been 20 something years of cultivating these works and this tradition and this work. And together with that, I come from a very musical family. So my father, my grandfather, my great grandfather, like all of them. So I've been always connected with music and with healing and the ancestral roots and everything. So I think I got to a point in my life where I managed to, amongst obviously doing the worldly stuff and working and doing this and doing that, getting things sorted for life as well. Then parallel to this, obviously putting together all these different areas that was coming from same roots as any spiritual understanding that we can get into. They always go to the same, but they are just different forms. And I managed to put the music, the sound, the ancestral word, the ancestral understanding, the ancestral practices, and taking it into, basically integrating it into my own life. I used to have this as a very private, personal practice, because that's really what it is. But because I started to travel through Europe when I was, 20 something, but around 20 years ago, I started to travel, and in the conversations with people, when I was maybe doing something or talking about something, or maybe they were seeing me doing something, so they began to inquire, like, "Why is that you're doing?" or "What is this?" And at that time, topics such as shamanism or things like that weren't as popular as today. So it was very rare and very strange, and I was feeling like happy to share something that was very natural for me. And then I saw with the pass of the time and the coming years that actually became a very strong source of life, of understanding, of wellness, like to feel better, to feel more calm, to feel more connected with nature, to feel more connected with your own roots, with your ancestry, with the importance of all these things, particularly in a world that I realized that it has so many inputs from so many different cultures, that it gets to a point where many people were asking themselves, like, yeah, I like this, I like all these different things, but who am I actually? I was born here, but I don't even want to say it because I don't feel like it's cool enough. I would prefer to be from somewhere else or something like that. So all these things about cultivating tradition and about connecting with your roots and recognizing that that's something really beautiful, because no matter where you travel or not, wherever you go, you are part of that territory. So that territory travels with you. So the way you speak, the way you do, the way you share, it's like a plant that has been taken to a different land, and it still brings its flavors, its colors, and so it's very important to align with the ancestry of the place where you were born, particularly, really, because you were born right in that point and not in another one, right in that city, not in a different one, and things like that. So I think it's very important to recognize this and honor it as well. And also, I think the more we do this, the less need for seeking outside that we have, and the more content with who we are, with who we've been, and all our ancestors, even if they have left us with intense and strong teachings to unfold in this life. Even so, that's okay. That's who we are, and that's how we are here for. And so I think when I started to do this with people and make them understand that in Colombia, the Spanish arrived here only less or more than 500 years ago. And that's very little. That's just nothing. That's only like 5 grandmothers. And then we were all indigenous, So of course they arrived here. So now some of us have like the color of their skin, the color of their eyes, maybe some of their features, but the tradition never died. We're still pretty much alive with all this. So that's how it started really. And I started to travel more and more, and it ended up being like around 16, 17 countries that I've been traveling, sharing and different things. I like keeping life fun. So sometimes it's ceremonies, sometimes it's music, sometimes it's sound, sometimes it's conferences, sometimes it's workshops, retreats. I like keeping life diverse and fresh and doing things. And it's not just about something very strict, but it's about, I guess the main root of the main topic of this is recognizing that we are nature, and that whatever goodness that we give to ourselves, nature, that we call nature out there, is going to be the first to be benefited by our own change.
Oh, yeah. I love the way you phrase that as well. Whatever goodness we give to ourselves is really giving to know. When we're saying goodness, we mean like true goodness. Thank you so much for sharing your story. And I feel like I have to ask a couple of questions before we go on, if you don't mind that. So from what you described, when you moved, and I think you said you were around 14 and you started to connect with elders, my sense, and I may have had this wrong, is you didn't come from a family that were particularly kind of honouring your sort of ancient spirituality, but that was something that you naturally were orientated to be interested in. And so for you, there was a reclamation, but for the reasons you said, it's not such a long ago reclamation as it is for, say, for example, as for me here in England, there's a reclamation that we need to go back a very long time. Whereas your sense was, yes, there is a bit of a reclamation because it's not like I've been raised with that, but it's here in the ground. It's so accessible. It's here in these elders. Did I get that right? Is that how you were experiencing it?
Yeah, because if you imagine 500 years of the visitors from Europe that arrived, that's not very long ago, and what happened is that it's still quite fresh. For example, let's bring into topic the witch hunting in the Celtic culture, for example. Mm-hmm. It's pretty similar to that. However, it has taken around kind of similar time for people these days to recognize and realize that actually the people who were, particularly many women who were born into the fire, what they used to do was to be in great touch with nature, to the point that they were great teachers and great thinkers and great source of wisdom from the kingdom, particularly of the plant kingdom. So women who knew so much about plant kingdom, women who knew about the animal kingdom, and for sure, obviously, the human kingdom and the mineral kingdom were considered as witches or wizards and all these things. And so we know that the history have taught us it's not a lie, it's not something secret. We know that the Catholic Church took over and did its part. Now, if we take this story into Colombia, same thing happened here. So when they arrived, really what arrived here was the Catholic Church, and then they basically obligated all the people to stop practicing our traditions. So it really wasn't a choice. It really wasn't something you could just choose to be this or choose to be that. And when you take that into a timeline and you project it into the future, then you get a culture that becomes Catholic, but they don't really know why. They just say we're Catholics and that's it really. But the great majority maybe don't even practice it, or maybe don't quite exactly know what that means to be a Catholic. And so the whole culture became like that. So anything that has to do with indigenous people even up to these days, is seen a little bit strange. It's like it's like to the point that I can say this. There is one law that actually I truly hope that it could change in the future, that basically allows police to take you into jail if they consider that you're a wizard. If they consider that you have all these strange things in your bag and that you're maybe doing these things, you can actually be taken to jail. So I suppose when we transcribe all these situations into villages, into small towns and everything, people, they kind of forget these things because it's what is happening, but in their heart, they always know it. So I come from this beautiful family of musicians, of artists and poets and cooks and traditional cooks and all these things. So it's all there. The love is there. Maybe the ways, okay, maybe these things have changed because of this, because of that, but the love and the true depth of connection is totally there. So I think for me, this was the case, but it happened that I got connected to this at a very early stage, thankfully. Sometimes people get into these connections or changes in life when they are in their 50s, maybe in their 60s or whatever the time, whenever the time is right. And I'm so grateful that this came really early. So it's been actually a great process to incorporate into the work of my family as well. And that we as a family have incorporated and have helped us a lot to talk really beautiful and to really understand the different processes of family, not only of this family, but the family lineage and understanding our past and all these things to help us, I suppose, to improve our present. And I suppose when we improve our present, we have a great opportunity to co-create an incredible future. So that's been my little journey with that.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. And the other thing that tugged on my attention was when you were saying, when you first began traveling, and as you rightly said, then shamanism wasn't this kind of, was almost become a craze that it is today. Then it wasn't. Mm-hmm. And you said it's something like you would just do your thing, and you'd said something like little things and people take notice. Would you name some of those little things? Would you give some examples of those things? Because I think, I have a sense there's something important in what you just named as little things.
Yeah. Well, I suppose basically, if I try to translate this, I mean, in the literal acts of actions that I did at that time, I realized, well, let's start doing some workshops and sharing about the use of your voice, connecting with your voice, connecting with ancestral ways of singing, and connecting with your inner sound, so that it can start showing you hidden things that you didn't know existed within you. Because when we sound, when we vibrate ourselves, the brain, of course, it plays a part. But there is something so deep that comes out of your own sound, especially when you are in a safe space and in a space where you feel, you give yourself permission to let whatever is within you to go out. And when that happens, what normally tend to happen is that people feel that kind of ancient root, grounding, ancestral connection with something that they might just not know. So I think the fact that I was saying from the beginning, look, guys, this is not I don't feel that for me talking about these things or sharing with you these practices is about you adopting them, so that then you say you are Colombian spiritual. I don't know, you might invent something about that. It really is not. It's just more about how about if we're thinking like this? These ways have helped me and have helped my people over generations to keep a clear understanding of who we are and what we were sent here for, and how we connect with our mother and with our father, not just in the earth, but in the sky. How about if you do the same with your allies, with your ancestors? Because look, guys, I come here to talk to you about our greatest elder that flies in the high sky of the Andes, which we call the condor. But the condor doesn't come all the way to England. So you have ravens, you have owls, you have deers, you have so many beautiful, amazing spirits that are part of your tradition. So why don't we realize that by being in touch with these ways, what we are actually doing is honoring nature, honoring everything that is around you. And then if the surroundings know that you acknowledge them, if your surroundings call them trees, stones, plants, everything, all the animals, insects, if you are in complete touch with them, they know it. So they also welcome you. They also protect you. They also talk to you. So the more that we are in touch with these beings, the more access to the true being that we are going to have. So imagine if we only sing to the condor when we are in the forest of, I don't know, some beautiful land in the UK. I mean, that sounds great. But I suppose the owl will be asking who that condor is. Do you know it? They probably are asking the oak tree, you know, have you heard about that condor thing? No, I have never seen. But it seems to be cool. You know, all these things are great. For example, if we're singing to the plants or we're singing to the great elders of the Amazons that we have here, but then we are in the middle of a Welsh hill, and then, you know, the same. So that's beautiful, and that's great to use it as a bridge but mostly to reconnect with the tradition of that land. Therefore, you know, cultivating traditions, cultivating ourselves is cultivating nature. That's really what it is, because when you realize nature and taking care of nature wasn't a choice in the past. It was like if you were not taking care of your crops, you wouldn't have not only food, but the sources for your home, the resources for your clothing, the resources for everything, for life. So taking care of nature wasn't, like I said, wasn't a choice. It was something that really needed to be taken into account. It wasn't something that you could just go and buy in a shop already made for you. It was something that you really, really had to take good care of. And obviously with the whole advantage of civilization and what we call the modern time. So then we are having these situations where maybe nowadays you ask a child, where does their food come from? And then they say from the fridge or from the shop or from Tesco, you know, kind of thing. They don't quite really grasp where that comes from. And that brings into the account of the modern world and the ancient world. So we are part of basically we are the last generation, according to our elders and to our stories. We're the last generation of the corn people. And we are the first, therefore we are the first generation of the honey people. So the corn people being like different seeds of one corn, where some seeds will awaken, some seeds will rotten, some seeds will just dry out, some seeds will sprout and thrive. But in the honey people, the honey human, humanitarian time, which has begun from 2012, according to the elders, all this was going to melt like the honey, and so that we could all become like the 5 fingers of a hand, like all different but one. And it's according to the stories that it's going to be the time where all the people are going to come back to return to save the mother and to help the mother to improve. So if we think about this, then we realize that we are a bridge. We are nor corn, we are nor honey. And let's put it in a different, more tangible, modern way. So we are not anymore analog. We are not digital. We are in between. We are the last
anyone
generation.
that's alive now. So is it a generational thing, or really anyone that's alive now is between?
Exactly. So we are. So now, right now, who we are now, we've got knowledge about technology, flat screens, touch screens, all that. But the greatest majority of us who were born, around like 70s, 60s, or even more, not so far away, not so close to now, just in between, So we still know about cables. We still know about the good old button to press, you know. But we're not one or the other. We are right in between. We're right in between. So this brings into the story of the spirals of creation from our tradition. That there were two spirals. The first one was anti-clockwise, and then it was like expanding until it created a clockwise. So it's the two spirals of creation. That the first one meaning the ancestral world or the origins, and then the next one, the other one, will be the modern world as whatever it is at that time. And so the bridge, the line in between, is the actual bridge between the two. So if we are living in these times and maybe in these words, and we have asked ourselves and recognize within ourselves that we are part of both worlds, that we are highly connected with the modern world, there might be a little clue there that is saying that we potentially are bridges. We are not one, we are not the other. We are bridges. We have potential to bridge. But a bridge, in order to become a bridge, has to be solid in both parts. Because if you imagine a bridge, one side of the bridge cannot be made of little sticks of wood, and the other one of concrete and steel. So if one is pretty weak, the bridge is going to fall in any time. So those two pillars, one is the ancient and the other one is the modern, so that we can bridge both worlds from one to the other. But like I said, in order to be a bridge and to recognize yourself and your path and your purpose as a bridging being, your understanding of the ancient world has to be so deep, as well as understanding the capabilities with technology and with all this, so that both are strong, so that we can do what we are doing here. We're using technology to transmit the words of our ancestors. So this is what bridging is. And it's the same. Some people might say, well, no, I feel very connected with nature, with ancestry, but I don't like technology. I actually hate it. Or some people can say, actually, I am so modern. I like gadgets and all these things, but I really don't like the old stuff. And that's fine. That both worlds are fine as well. But if some of us are feeling that we develop both gifts, then the life is already giving us a clue. And all these ancient stories are guiding us to understand why the bridges came at this time, so that we could bridge the last bits of the last generation into the new generation and plant those seeds really well planted and hopefully cultivating them really well. Because when we leave, when we are all are gone, cables, ancient world, and all this analog world is gonna go with us. It's gonna be the beginning of a complete new world that we can't even imagine right now. So yeah, that's pretty much, I suppose, colliding with a little bit of my mission or what I've been doing for this time. Bridging.
Yes. Oh my goodness. I feel there's so much in what you've just shared that makes so much sense, not just on a mental level. It's joined lots and lots of dots of different things that we contemplate in the work that we do at Wake in the Wild, but just my heart is just like so alive with everything you've been sharing. And yeah, I feel like I need a moment before I'm even able to allow a question to form. But yeah, sure. I feel really blessed. Thank you so much for what you've just shared.
Thank you. Take your time.
What I was really hearing in what you just said is kind of like the design, like the perfect design, in that those bridges that you're describing kind of like were foreseen. And therefore, if they were foreseen, these times were foreseen. And there's just something just so beautiful about that. Like there's something that's kind of you talked about giving that kind of goodness to ourselves, that truth feels like a goodness that we can start to give to ourselves.
Yes. Yeah. I basically, I guess expanding a little bit more of the words that we started with. And that goes along
I'm glad
with what
one of us is remembering. We've got into so many beautiful places that I trust that we're meant to go where we're meant to. But thank you for bringing us back there.
So I guess when we think about bridging is a it looks like a interesting thing to become, an interesting thing to be. In fact, maybe even a cool thing to be. But it's a hard thing to be, because you have to be strong in both sides. So you are so strong with your connection with your ancestry as much as you can. But in the same way should be on the other side, because that's the commitment. That is the commitment if you truly feel you want to weave between the two worlds. One cannot be weak. You have to work yourself so hard to make the two pillars of life very strong. And so when we think about giving the best of ourselves to support and to create and to make change into the out there, why is that I was saying on this video, the change begins with yourself? Because look, there is a little thing. If you imagine a cell, and a cell is made out of different elements like mitochondria, the nucleoid, all these things that made a little community. So a cell is actually a little community working themselves out to make this cell actually exist. If cells with cells get together, form blood. The blood gets into its way and form tissues and form organs. Organs with organs form a body. Body with body form a family. Families with family form towns. Towns getting together with towns get a pueblo, a small city. Small cities getting together, they form a city. Cities getting together form a country. Countries getting together form a continent. Continents getting together form a planet. Planets getting together form a solar system. Solar systems getting together form galaxy. And galaxies getting together form the universe. So it all begins with as tiny as our own cells to understand that what is happening within us is absolutely affecting out there. Because nowadays, I guess with so much information that we see online, there seems to be this need of everybody being leaders. Nobody supports anybody. The term of the producer, even the producer wants to be also the director. So it's like we are in times where if you are a producer, meaning you are supporting this leader to develop and to reach. Oh, why am I not helping myself? I can do the same. Why am I helping others? So even there is a common sense of like leadership right now because of so much input from Instagram, from Facebook, from all these things that be your own leader, that's great. And those who find themselves the way to be a great leader, amazing. But hey, actually, we need you guys. We also need the support. So this can actually happen, right? And also we need people. We also need people. We are together. So it's like this cell, each one has its own particular task. And within them, within the importance of how to put them together, then it just won't be a cell. Imagine if the mitochondria stop being a mitochondria and she wants to be the nucleoid. And then each one of the part wants to be the nucleoid. And it's a cell made of 8 nucleoids. And they're at the end, they saying, we need a mitochondria actually. So it's about how we intake this knowledge and how we understand that, of course, okay, we want to be a leader. I want to change world. I want to change the planet if I can. So then I want to go and change that river. I want to clean that river. But that's why I say, like, let's begin with your own rivers. Let's begin with your own pathways and your own waters, meaning your emotions, meaning your blood, meaning your cells. How are you eating? How are you drinking? How are you dealing with your emotions? All these things. So that's plenty of work already. Do you want to clean the river? Let's begin with us. Okay, let's see how my feelings are all over the place. Or am I okay with my feelings? How am I drinking? How am I eating? How am I treating my own body? Actually, yes, I got a good awareness of this. Then let's go out. Let's do it outside as well. And so it's so mystical, this thing, that actually the interesting thing is that because it's a mirror work, meaning that if you do it with yourself, you immediately change the outside. Why? Because your consciousness develops, your awareness towards certain things change or improve. Therefore, you become someone who pollutes less the out there because you have realized about these things within you. So you just don't support them, you don't buy them, you don't use them. So you actually make a little impact in the outside. But now, like we saw with pandemics, if it becomes a global thing and everybody just literally stops, well, so then the change happens within a month. It's like, boom, like the skies are clear. But the interesting thing is that sometimes we also can see the change in us when we do the change out there. It's not that it's a bad thing. It's not that only you have to work yourself. Actually, when you start helping and clearing that river and clearing these things, what can happen magically is that by the fact that you allowed yourself to just go into a pond or into a lake to clear it with other like-minded people, with people who are maybe your neighbors, you thought you hated before, and now you become friends, and now suddenly realize that actually all I was needing was to go out and doing something productive for my heart, for my life. And now it happened that we created a little community around this. And now we're gathering every now and then. And the neighbors that I thought I hated because was leaving the rubbish in front of my house or whatever, now is my best friend. And now suddenly the outside is healing us within us inside. So it's healing actually our emotions by supporting the outside. So it doesn't matter which way we do it, but definitely it's going to be an impact, you know?
Oh, my goodness. I love this so much. So I really love the different examples you've given. And these are all things that no matter, where in the world you are, no matter how far back your kind of more ancient wisdom goes, these are all things that we can do, which some way goes to answer the question I'm about to ask you, but I still feel that still feels the right thing to do to ask you. So if again, you're, say, for example, like me, my heritage is pretty almost completely European and mainly English. And as you know, so much of our ancient wisdom has been kind of lost from at least sort of human consciousness and not being passed down. If you're in that situation, which I'm guessing many of our listeners are, what would you suggest in terms of ways that we can reconnect to our ancestors, reclaim those ancient ways so that we can, as you say, those of us that do feel this sense of we're here to be a bridge, how can we plant our foot firmly back in the old?
Yeah. That is a common, let's say, question that I've been getting on my travels particularly. And the thing that I always say is this: it's not lost. It's just a seed that is dry, that is waiting for the right water to come and sprout it and help it to thrive. And that seed is so precious to these days that is awaiting for the right water to come. And when that water comes, I tell you, this is going to be strong. This is going to be pure. It's going to be unstoppable. So there is so much hope. Definitely, there is so much hope. And I say to you, because the same thing happened with us. People came from different lands and did try to destroy everything, but we survived. And I am kind of pretty much the second lineage of the time when the seed was awakened, the seed of corn of our people. The elders had to come from the up high mountains from the north of Colombia, and another ones had to come very deep from the Amazons in the south of Colombia to plant their sacred houses in the center of Colombia to start teaching the first lineage of people who were the awoken seeds of corn that awoke to bring the old wisdom into the future generations. And so we learned from that first lineage, and we somehow became a second lineage after that. And so there is hope and there is a way. We are the result of that. We are the result of like people coming, like in your case happened with the Romans in the time, and they came and pushed away all the Celtic people and all that. But that wisdom is so deep and so pure, and so profound that, especially in these days, of anythingness that we live, something such as deep as an acorn, that acorn, that son or daughter of the oak tree, is just waiting for you to be the water, to water it, to help it to thrive, to help it to come alive. And it's just you who makes this possible. It's nobody else. So the more you go to your forest, the more you go and greet the ash trees, the more you go and sit and watch the deers walking by and looking at you, the more you sing with the owls in the night, the more you greet the ravens, the more all the ancestral wisdom that is within your cells is going to sprout. It's going to spark. And all I say is make it happen in your mind also. So all this is the process of your heart, is the process of your life, is the process of you being alive and becoming part of nature. I will say very respectfully, stop seeking outside so much. Just go to your land. Just go there. It's all there. Just look at that river. Just look at that lake. It has all. It doesn't mean don't travel. It doesn't mean don't know the world. Yes, I've been traveling all around the globe, but that without losing the touch that I have with my allies, with my family, in every possible form they have, whether it's animal, whether it's plants, whether it's mineral or human. This is something very important. So I believe that apart from this, sorry, there's some noise. Let me just close this stuff from here. I hope that's better. So apart from becoming a relative, that's all. It's a relative. So you see the tree as a relative. You see the deer as a relative. You see the lake as a relative. You see the stone as a relative. You see your ancestors as relatives, not as ghosts. So as soon as you become a relative, then there is care. I care for my relatives. I'm not going to damage you because I'm damaging myself. It's a direct link with what I've been saying. But then there is the great kingdom of the mind. And that's a different business. Because in this great factory of vision, we can continue re-envisioning what we don't like. The riddles that we haven't been able to unfold. All what we don't like of ourselves, all the doubts that we don't want to see in our path, we can create them here. So therefore, we can continue using words such as is lost. It doesn't exist. We don't have. That's the same factory making those biscuits of I don't have. We don't have. You do have, and I don't have. Is lost, is gone. How about if we change the factory, we change the whole production, and we say, I am. we've been sleeping, waiting for the right time to awake. We've been dry seeds awaiting in the soil for the right water to come, and we are that water. And so that we can begin to understand that this is not lost. It's just really awaiting for the right time when the whole kingdom of the northern lands and the whole kingdom of your ancestors will come to support us, because we can't do it all by ourselves. We are doing, the whole of the Americas is having its moment. We as the Americas are now conquering the entire lands, moving across there, planting the fires, planting the kingdom, bringing the traditions, bringing the practices so the mother can be safer, that there can be a connection with the father, all these things. But there will be time for others to come too. We have waited for a long time. And now it all seems to be the Americas, the medicines of the Americas. You see how long we waited for that? A very long time. And all of us who cultivated this were sent to other lands just like arrows, crossing the Atlantic, crossing the Pacific, to go and plant all this wisdom and to plant all these practices, just so that people could awake, and so that people could awaken to their own kingdom. And so we see these days so many things awakening, such as the sacred feminine, the sacred masculine, getting into a very, very strong moment where the sun and the moon couldn't be more of the main characters of a film, such as they are right now. So what is the kingdom of the moon? What is the kingdom of the sun? They are the great mysteries, and they are the most incredible films to watch these days, because it has the secrets of our ancestors, and it has the secrets of life. What brings life? It's those two. Why are we seeing so many eclipses this day? Well, ask ourselves. They are saying it's about both of us. It's not just about the moon. It's also about the sun, but it's not just about the sun. It's about the sun and the moon. Therefore, they eclipse themselves and they show us we are together. Watch both of us. It's not just her. And she says it's not just him, it's us. So this is very important for these times.
Oh my goodness. This I feel like there's so much that's coming up for me as I'm hearing you. I just want to share this with you, because the perfection of what you're sharing, and how there's so much synchronicity in so much of what you've said. And I just want to share this with you, because I so agree with what you've said there. You know, it's not lost. It's for us to go and connect with our land and allow that to teach us. And in the last few weeks, in the work we do with Wake and Wild, we've started to invite our audience, our members, into different practices every Wednesday. We call it Wild Wednesday. And yesterday's was to go and start connecting with a tree. And I actually shared a poem. The fact that what you said about the oak was literally the words of the poem I wrote. Even the bit where you said water it with your tears, that was in the poem. And I feel like there's just such a deep sense of we're doing that. We're doing that.
Absolutely. I have seen it. I have seen it in the last few years of visiting the Celtic land. I have seen it. I remember talking about these words that we have been talking about for a very long time, and I can see it. Like you know, some of the elders here say the first thing to recover your tradition, and it's not going to be the funniest and the most exciting ones maybe, is recovering your language. Your traditional language, because in the traditional language you have the stories, you have the songs, you have the dances, you have the instruments, you have the words, you have the metaphors, you have the poetry. So by reclaiming and recovering your ancestral languages, you are actually recovering and bringing back the understanding of how your ancient people were understanding the land before so much cement exists. Because that's the other thing, that we see so much cement, and it's so easy to forget that under the cement is the mother, so that we could just use our inner technology and just delete all that and just try and scan and see like an X-ray, where you can actually see that actually under that there's still worms and the soil and this pebbles, there's stones, this dirt, there's all these things. Is like actually there's even like undercurrent waters and things like that. So if we could just apply these things and recognize that there were so many people who lived before us, who also envisioned us, who also knew that new times were coming. And like with that story that I mentioned of the 2 generations of the corn people and the honey people, well, the first generation of the corn people envisioned us because they knew that the last people of this entire generation, they prayed for us so that we could transmit as much as possible to the next generation. And so we, becoming the first generation of the honey people, our inner task is to ask ourselves, what are we going to leave for the latest and the last generation of all these things that is going to happen? Because it's like a little treasure that we're going to envision and create. Or hopefully that will be the people who will awake at that time of who knows what's going to happen around that time, 5,250 years. That's a difficult thing to imagine. But the more we do it now, part of that question is, ask yourself, what kind of seed are you? Are you a seed of, well, actually, like, are we actually like a peppermint seed that grows easy and fast and spreads so much everywhere? Or are we like an acorn that takes hundreds of years to really become and flourish and harvest? That's the question, whether our actions are to have an impact on the right now, or whether whatever we are doing is to have an impact when the time is right in the future. And if that is the case, then we have to somehow cultivate even better our steps, knowing that it's going to actually have the harvest is going to come later on. It's like the way I see this in my life in the land where I live. When I planted 3 years ago, I planted mandarin, and I planted a lemon. We have different like plantains and banana trees and avocados and all sorts of things. But I didn't have mandarin, and I didn't have that particular type of lemon. When I planted 3 years ago, I thought, I'm going to plant it for whoever is going to be here. Even if I decide to move somewhere else eventually or whatever, I know that someone is going to enjoy these mandarins that are not in this land and this type of lemon that are not here. Well, guess what? Now I see the lemons are coming the first season, it's coming, and I'm like, oh my God. So it's it's so beautiful to that thought that sometimes you are going to plant, and what you plant, you probably are not going to see the harvest, but some others will. So that's kind of part of the question of how our actions, are we connected with our purpose, and how our actions, what are we expecting of our actions? Are we expecting a result right now for the people who exist right now, or we want to leave a word that will exist in the hearts of people, that will be transmitted by their own words into their own people, so that eventually the harvest will come in the future thanks to the things that you did today. So those are things to complement.
My goodness, this conversation is one of those conversations where I always, my intention is that the episodes are going to be enriching and interesting for listeners. And then every now and again, I get one where I'm like, this was for me. It'd be nice if the listeners too, but this was for me. This was one of these conversations. So
thank you. Thank you, Leanne.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So I feel like I could happily just continue for hours, but we have reached the end of the show. So I would love for you to come back if not pretty well. I am kind of putting you on the spot so that you have to say yes now. Would you like to come back sometime? Because there's so much more that I would like to ask you.
Of course. Yes,
wonderful.
Of course.
And for now, where can listeners find out more about you and your work?
Yeah, well, I have, I suppose people connect with me via the things I do, like workshops or retreats or things like that. I think it's the closest way for people to get to this, and also my music. So I think if you go to antharkharana.com, that's actually just my name.com. I managed to kind of compilate everything, all different links there, so you can go to my music. You can also go to the sound work that I do everywhere, the schools I have. Everything is pretty much collided on there. But also in the social networks, in Instagram, Facebook, and all that, same with my name. Just type in my name, Anthar Kharana, and then you will find me there. Basically, I keep all that updated. And through that, you can surely get into the links to hear my music. Actually, you can find me also like that on Spotify and SoundCloud and all this. So you can also get to listen to my music, which is, I suppose, the music I create is it embodies so much of this in a musical context.
Wonderful. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. This really has been such a pleasure for me.
Thank you, Leanne. Thank you for inviting. And hope to see you again in another episode.
Yes, thank you. My goodness, what a show. Here were really just some of my takeaways. When we want to change the world, we can begin with ourselves. Clean our own blood and we clean the river. What kind of seed are you? Are you one here that's here to spread prolifically now, or one that's here to grow slowly, with the results of what's planted now being something your ancestors many generations from now will benefit from? I love how Anthar spoke about the importance of connecting to our land and our ancestors. We care about our relations and they care about us. If you'd like to get the notes and links for everything we spoke about this week, do hop on over to the show notes, and they are at wakingthewild.com/podcast/394. And to get the Wild Wander Guide and join us for Wild Wednesday, hop on over to wakingthewild.com/wolfpack now, and you will get your mitts on all of that right away. If you don't want to miss out on next week's episode, head on over to Apple Podcast, Stitcher, or your app of choice and hit that subscribe button. That way you'll get each episode delivered straight to your device as soon as it's released. Thank you so much for listening. You've been wonderful. Catch you again next week.